But the real struggle, what amplifies shame regardless of the category, is that we're expected and sometimes desire to be perfect, yet we're not allowed to look as if we're working for it. We want it to just materialize somehow. Everything should be effortless. Hi, my name's Monica King from InnovatorsBox, and you are at Books with Monica, where I share some of my favorite books and read yours. And today, I'm excited to share about some of my favorite by Brené Brown, Daring Greatly, where she speaks about her research about vulnerability, shame, and just being courageous in the workplace and how that transforms our lives and how we show up. Take a moment where you were 5 or 10 years ago. Any of those keywords were probably things that you're like, ooh, you don't bring feelings and emotions to the workplace. That's a separate thing. That's personal. The optimistic part of me is, I think this change with the pandemic is permitting us to be more raw about these emotions and challenges than ever before. And it's challenging even those who have been doing this well to take a moment and step back to say, how am I truly showing up? And not letting my fear voice, as I just read, stopping us from showing up the way we are. I'll give some more concrete examples. In my context, I practiced being vulnerable and trying to be mindful by just being transparent about our business challenges. With COVID, like many of you, we've had to pivot, but in that process, we also lost a lot of things as we try new things. In March, I lost probably more than 90% of the business that we originally had because all of our engagements were in person. And this is me being vulnerable and transparent that was the truth. And the old me would have been probably scared because it's like, ooh, why would you ever share with other people that you lost your clients? Or like, even if it was the pandemic. And I realized when March started with Women's History Month, those were some of the things that I started honestly sharing. Like, hey, I don't actually have all the answers, but this is the reality. This is how I'm taking care of my mental health. This is how I'm supporting my team, and we're still figuring out. That was an example of me realizing that I wanted to practice my vulnerable talk by sharing where I honestly was, and in hope that it encourages others to show up where they are. And honestly, I was very humble. Hindsight 2020. Now we are actually grown more. We've grown our team, we've grown our client base, and we're doing so much more. But it really started with me humbly acknowledging that this is a human experience we're all going through, and I need to acknowledge that. I need to be comfortable sharing about it, and needing to be comfortable sharing with you right now on this video. And it's probably not a coincidence that I'm proud at how I've grown my vulnerability and getting more comfortable speaking my mind and just recognizing how I actually feel about things as a person and a leader, because I was scared about saying anything personal online. It's no coincidence that if you go back to any of my social media feeds personally, if you follow me, you will rarely see any of my photos or me talking about anything that I personally thought about before my business. And that's because I was a little adamant. I worked in nuclear weapon security. Politics, you have to be careful about what you share, and who is me to say that I have an opinion to share? It's kind of how I thought. But over time, I realized as I start my business and got into helping other people thinking about how we do our leadership and culture differently, I realized I needed to practice my walk and getting comfortable expressing. So this is me being on camera. I start recording some of these stories, insights, what I felt about some of my favorite books, and sharing snippets by hopefully inspiring you and how you can be vulnerable in where you are. And at times, those are conversations you don't have answers, and sharing where you are. But somewhere out there is going to inspire somebody else and give them the courage, just like how it has been for me along this journey. So let me share another piece that Brene shares that I hugely agree with, is how the small blocks are really key in training our eye to rethink. And that's an example that she shares here is joy. Let me honestly ask you, how often do you count joy? How often do you feel happy in life and work? She shares to take a moment to share this. Joy comes to us in moments, ordinary moments. We risk missing out on joy when we get too busy chasing down extraordinary. Scarcity culture may keep us afraid of living small, ordinary lives. But when you talk to people who have survived great losses, it is clear that joy is not a constant. Without exception, all the participants who spoke to me about their losses and what they missed the most spoke about ordinary moments. If I could come downstairs and see my husband sitting at the table, cursing at the newspaper. If I could hear my son giggling in the backyard. My mom sent me the craziest text. She never knew how to work her phone. I would give anything to get one of those texts right now. Be grateful for what you have and where we are. And at times it's taking a moment to count those joy. And knowing that vulnerability, shame, and all these emotion things that we feel difficult, we got to start talking about it. So let's dive a little bit deeper, shall we? Thank you for joining Monica, and I'll see you soon.